the County Pulse Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the County Pulse. Now let's get this thing started.
So we're here today with Coach Marshall. Welcome back, Coach, to the County Pulse Podcast. I really enjoy these things where we can get together, talk about things, and really just kind of pick each other's brains. Mostly me picking your brain, me just yapping. But how are you doing today, man?
Good. It's funny as like the bye week probably came at a good time for our guys, mentally. That third week's always kind of, it's really the mid season, like not necessarily game wise, but schedule wise with preseason, that's kind of the midpoint. So it came at a good time, try to get healthy, but man, I can't wait for Saturday to hopefully get this bad taste out of our mouths. It's been a long 2 weeks waiting to get back on the field.
Well, and certainly the IC game didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. And have you had the opportunity, during this week, how's the team reflecting on this and really preparing? Because I think you're in a unique place, right? And I tried to talk, believe it or not, I talked to other players besides Grayson, but I talked to him about like, look, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, you're leaving a coach that's been here for 32 years or whatever, conference championship. A lot of pressure on the coach. And I think if my numbers serve me, we're over 50% of our kids are freshmen. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's tough. I mean, and I know that because I had a freshman, right? So I know that that's problematic for us, right? Because they're just new. They're, it's kind of like having, no disrespect to these young cats, man. No disrespect at all, but they're new, right? And everything's new to them. So it's always a growing, kind of a growing period there. But putting that aside, have you guys kind of talked about that and what we're looking for heading into to Cornell based off of kind of, some of the things we've seen, maybe things we haven't been able to do last week or maybe the previous couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this on every one of these, right? Like our focus needs to be more on us and less on the other team. And when we went back and watched that film, I mean, it was, every game is ultimately it's a few plays, and that game was probably not as lopsided as maybe it looks on the scoreboard. I mean, there's 7-8 plays, that we're a step quicker. We read a little bit faster. We finish a block better. Whatever. That's a different ball game. And so, we've been talking about that now for 3 games, 4 weeks with the bye, about taking care of ourselves more than anything. And I think, the last couple of days, I think it's starting to sink in a little bit, certainly there's a little bit extra excitement this week, but there always is coming off the bye, in terms of guys getting, chomping at the bit to get back out there and hit somebody else. And, hopefully we can execute at the level we expect and not so much where we've really been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. And kind of transition into something a little bit more exciting. We finally kind of get into our, brand new stadium, right? Hawk Stadium. How was it for you stepping in for the first time for practice? I mean, from a head coach perspective, how did you feel about that? Because we've seen it from afar. I haven't had a chance to touch it and feel it, right? You've had that opportunity. What did that feel like, Coach?
Yeah, it was surreal. It's probably the only word that I can come up with, and it probably doesn't do it justice. We normally don't practice on the Sunday of bye week. It's more meetings and kind of working out. But we had the opportunity to get out there, and the worry with something like with something so big is what's that first practice going to look like, right? Everybody's looking around and checking out all the new stuff. So we went out on the field for about an hour on Sunday, and it was fun. It was really cool. Just kind of sitting back and watching the guys just enjoy it. Right. We try to encourage them to soak it in. Cause ultimately there's not a lot of people that get to be the first ones on a new field. Right. It doesn't happen that often. Where you get to, hey, it's a new stadium, here we go. And so just try to get our guys to enjoy it a little bit. But then the last couple of days we've had good practices out there, and Tuesday night under the lights was really cool. I mean, it's a great setting for a stadium with the hill and the walls. It really feels like you're down in kind of a bowl, and it's unique. in a lot of ways, but just, for me, thinking about all the people, who worked really freaking hard to get this thing done. Certainly Ryan Kane, 2 years ago, kind of having the vision to get this thing going. Thankful to our donors, especially Steve Hopp. Like, a lot of people came through in a really big way, that care about this place. And when you have something like Wilmore, it's great. Having the stadium kind of takes that a step further with just, again, how much people love this place and want to support it and want everybody to be successful. And, I talked to our guys before that Sunday practice about, soaking it in, excuse me, but understanding the historical significance of it, like, hey, this is really, this is a big moment, and we got to be thankful for all the people that came before us that worked really hard to get this thing done.
Yeah, that's the other thing I think about. I think I probably think more about the folks that have played there for ever, right? What's that like? Doing, now finally establishing the program. And I agree with you. The Wilmore Center was great. It's fantastic. And then right across the street now you have kind of bookends, right? Not saying that stops there, but it feels right? It's a balance, I think, just in nature, right? We have a big, nice facility here in the Wilmore Center. Now we have a nice big stadium here, and it's our home. It's nobody else's. It's our home. And how the other coaches, did they have any thoughts on it when they were onto the field and talking later about it?
Yeah, I think, like, Coach Coles, Coach Schmidt, Coach Luke, guys that have been here for 2 decades plus, like, the feeling of being in an on-campus stadium and not at Ingles, and for them it probably means a little bit more just because they've been around so much longer, and honestly, though, like, when we were playing here, how nice would it be to have a stadium on campus, all that stuff. But it never felt like something that was really going to get done back then. Right. And as players, we don't know any different. So it was cool kind of sitting back and watching everybody come on for the first time and just look around. Right. I think that was, as a staff, I think everybody understands just kind of how cool this really is, and not taking it for granted.
Yeah, and I think the players, I think they appreciate it, but probably not as much as, like you said, the guys, coaches that have been around for a while. And as you're talking, I can imagine in my head guys sitting around either after practice or maybe let's go out for a beer or drink and talking about, man, would it not be nice to have our stadium? And then to have that come full circle right here and getting ready to kick off, it just has to be a great thing for them,
Yeah, and it's just like noticing, like, last night we had fewer guys coming in late, right? Because it's just easier to get down from class, change, and get out there, and we're not even in the locker room yet, where it'll be even faster. We're still walking across the street this week while they finish up the locker room. So, like, it's going to be awesome just from an efficiency standpoint for our guys.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, it's shortened, and I'd heard that the locker rooms weren't ready yet, but they're be here in the next week or two, I imagine. But that's got to be really nice. Come there, boom, get ready and get out on the field and take care of business. Not just efficiency, but I think from a mind perspective, like keeping your mind focused, like you're boom, ready in the locker room, and then boom, you're right there. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to be up there this weekend and really check it out. And kind of looking forward now as we get into Cornell, I always try to do a little peek into what they've done. And there's some players that come to mind. John Smith, sounds like a fake made up name, but I guess they got a guy named John Smith. They don't have Jane Doe, but they have John Smith, passing game, and a guy by the name of Tony Gomez in their rushing game. How do you plan, just focus on those two guys? I know that isn't the end all be all for Cornell. How do you see those guys having the opportunity to make sure that they're not successful against us?
Yeah, again, it kind of comes back. I know I say it a lot, but focusing on our job. I mean, when we're getting beat right now, it's because we're out of position or we're not tackling well. And so it's making sure, like always, everybody's going to have a guy or two, whatever, that you're going to pay a little extra attention to. the one thing we see is their quarterback's pretty good off script, so we got to make sure we can contain him and keep him from getting out and making some stuff happen with his legs. And ultimately what it looks like from the running back is broken tackles. When he can break a tackle and get out in space, he's pretty good. And so just making sure when we get one guy with a hit on him, we got to have 2 or 3 more guys getting there in a hurry and run into the ball and making those plays when the opportunity comes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game because when you contrast that, looking at their quarterback, I think right now, at least what I've been able to glean, Jack Barons, right? Obviously, you have decisions when you go in, but Jack's been playing. He's got, I believe, to be about 343 yards passing over a couple of games. How crucial is that role in his role in the game against Cornell, knowing what they're going to bring to the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this week defensively, Cornell does some stuff that's a little bit different than kind of we're used to. Just in terms of their base defense, it's not something we've seen a lot of, and so they do some different things coverage wise, and so it's for our quarterbacks, it's about making sure we see things before they happen, right? Getting a great pre-snap read, making sure we're making good decisions, taking care of the ball. We feel like we've got a chance to have a good day offensively if we can make sure we're taking the easy throws, right? When we've got a 5-yard route, let's complete it, take 5 and be in 2nd and 5 or whatever that looks like, and being ahead of the chains. We've got a lot of stuff this week. Post-snap decision in our RPO game with our quarterbacks. And so we just need him to continue to make great decisions. I mean, seems to have a good handle on the game plan from the last couple of days. And so we just got to make sure we're calling the stuff that he's comfortable with and making sure we're communicating effectively what we're looking for.
Yeah, and when you talk about things, and again, I always go back, and maybe I'm a guy who, I'm a Bears fan, so I like going back far, like to 1985. So I always go back to
not a lot of positive recent
I gotta have something positive. One of these days, not this year though. But when you look at like Connor Ramage in the backfield's got, I think, 189 yards somewhere in that area. I could be wrong, but I tried to grab that data. But he's doing pretty good. What's your expectations, not just for him, but I know you got a couple other guys. You got a young guy there that can play. I don't remember his name. You always correct me on it. But he's a guy that really runs right at you, right? I mean, he's I wouldn't say Cormac Madigan Jr. because I think that's a disrespect to Connor. But he's very similar that he can just bowl you over. I mean, he doesn't just have that ability, but he has the ability to go to the side. And then you have the other guy who's, like you said, I think last time we spoke, was this ability to juke and get out, right? To see those holes and move. And I know he's in a growing period, right? And Connor's a little bit more probably experienced, but how do you see that running game really trying to capitalize? And maybe, I'm sure dads and even moms know this, but you get that running game open, right? And that opens up. It helps your passing game, right? Your passing game opens up, helps your running game. Am I right in that?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think both those things can complement each other really well. We challenged our big guys up front the last 2 weeks about, hey, we got to be better. IC handled us pretty well in the run game, and we got to be, our offense is based around, hey, we got to be able to run the ball, and that's when we can start to open it up on the outside, and just playing more physical, really going after guys a little bit more. In any time early in the season, I mean, we've got, really, kind of 3.5 new starters up front. Right now we've got a couple guys who played, but weren't necessarily starters. And, and our left tackle's still out this week. And so it's like, we're still gelling a little bit. I mean, that's a big part of O-line play. And, you come out of camp and you always you hope you have it, and you don't always do, with just trying to figure out rotations and what group works best together and all that. And so usually the first couple of weeks are trying to find ways to create that mix and gel those guys together. And I think we're kind of there now. We had a really good last couple of days running the ball in practice, and just being really assignment sound, but again, being more physical. I mean, we gotta start moving bodies instead of just kind of touching people and calling it good. And so that certainly will help. I mean, anytime we give the ball to Connor inside, Jay outside, whatever that looks like we know they can make stuff happen, but we got to start creating some running lanes for them, so they don't have to make people miss 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, right? Make the safety miss at 8, and now you got a chance to hit some of those big plays that we try to hang our hats on. So, our goal this week's going to be to make sure we get that run game going, by the time we walk off the field on Saturday.
Yeah. So talking a little bit, and I've kind of with our Facebook group, right, the parents group, as well as some photo group, we talked a lot, and whether this was right or not, I don't know, but I asked them if what they wanted to see, and so I think one of the things that was a consistent theme was the ability to talk to some of the offensive and defensive lines guys, and maybe some of the coaches. And so I think maybe as we move along, we'll see if that's something they're comfortable with, you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Those are kind of the unsung heroes often, right? You can talk about Jack and Jarrett and Connor and whoever may be out there, Alex, all these guys, DeMarcus, all these guys. You can talk about these guys, but it really doesn't happen, right? Unless we have those offensive lines. Can you talk a little bit about these guys and maybe mention some names of where you see them going? I know besides the fact that we got a fair amount of freshmen, right? We're banged up a little bit in different areas, right? And some of those guys are on the, one guy I know in particular on the front line is a little banged up. And it's amazing to me looking at some of these guys when I talk to them. These are guys who are playing consistently through the years that are just going through it, man. They've got pains, they've got knee problems, they've got everything. And, it's amazing to me that these guys can still do what they do. And it's almost like sometimes I wonder who put them together today, right? Like Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and put them on the field, and they're offensive line guys. So talk a little bit about those guys if you could, and then we'll talk later about trying to get maybe some of these guys after a game just to get on here and talk a little bit, because I don't want to miss those guys. And same with the defensive line guys. But right now with offense, I want to talk a little bit about that. Maybe we'll jump into the defense guys too.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head in terms of piecing those guys together right now. I mean, Dennis, our trainer, has got his work cut out with our offensive line right now, and credit to those guys. I mean, every single one of them's playing, a little bit hurt in one way or another, which isn't unique to us. I mean, that's the nature of the position. Certainly, Kyle going down against Grinnell, he was playing really well the first couple of weeks, and had. For who's had a lot of injury problems, was kind of felt like he was over the hump a little bit, and then, got hurt again. But, he's rehabbing, he's working his way back. We're hoping, next week, maybe what do we have, Chicago or whatever, next couple of weeks, he'll be back. Cody Hassel at center has been kind of battling an ankle injury, but kind of the same thing, man. He's playing hurt every day. And, we tried to pull him out the other day because he was kind of limping, and he said some choice words and said, "I'm not coming out," which, you appreciate from those guys. And we've kind of got a 3-guard rotation right now with Tony Damp, Gabe Drake, and Cole Hittner. Those guys are doing a great job kind of working with each other. It's great to have 3 guys in that role that can play. Because one gets a little bit tired, we can get them a blow and make sure we've got fresh guys rolling through there. Tony's been without question kind of our meanest offensive lineman the last 2 years, really. But he's doing a great job trying to instill some of that attitude with the rest of the group and make sure everyone's on the same page. Gabe's our smart guy up front. He knows everything he's supposed to do. He knows everything everybody's supposed to do. I mean, he's really our utility guy right now that can play any of the 5 spots. And then Cole, is coming along. He's kind of new to the group in terms of he didn't have a lot of reps last year. and so he's still kind of growing, but is doing a great job. He's making progress every day. Tristan Moctezuma at right tackle was our transfer right before the season. Has really come on. I think that's always the hard part. He transferred officially 3 days before report date. And so, for him, it's still playing catch up on the schemes, but when he's locked in, he's really good. He's got a lot of physical ability, really physical, does a great job getting to the second level. And then in Kajon Gray right now, stepping in at left tackle, stepped in against IC, is similar to Cole, right? He's still growing in the position and trying to get his feet wet and get his legs underneath him. But he's had a great 2 weeks. I mean, he kind of took it on the chin a little bit versus IC, but I think he had a great attitude about it. He came back, kind of angry at himself, but also just having that mentality of like being mad but working really hard to fix those things that weren't good. And ultimately that's what you need. Like, you're going to have a bad day. You're going to get beat, especially at that position. It's hard to have a perfect game. You're not going to get many of those from one guy, much less five. And so that's a position that's always about growth and trying to come back the next day and just get a little bit better. And it's so technical. I think a lot of people think offensive line is just pushing and big guys and whatever. But, we spend more time on taking one step and getting your second step in the ground as fast as you can, more than we do pushing people and doing all that stuff. And so the technicalities of the position are really what make it really hard for young guys. I was just talking with one of our freshman linemen yesterday, and I said, man, like, hey, you're in the toughest spot in football, freshman O-line, just because there's so much to learn, so much variance. Is that D tackle head up or is he on your inside shoulder? Like, that changes the play sometimes pretty dramatically. And so, the learning curve is tough, and you're, like you said, you're beat up all the time. So, they're doing a great job. Coach Coles is working his butt off trying to take steps forward with them. And, I think everybody kind of understands we gotta be better there, on Saturday, just in terms of our execution. But, the last week and a half or so has given me a lot of hope that we're going to get there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a thing that, I think we see, and no matter what game it is, right? I think we see that, people play, guys play. They're really, now most of them are, you just say they're young men, right? I always call them our kids, but I know they're young men. But you don't see that other side of it, is that they are out there working, getting banged up every day, right? Obviously, it's a contact sport, but some of these guys, they could have their arm falling off, and you'd say, hey, you got to come out. You're going to bleed to death. And they'd be like, I'm staying in. I'm going to finish this game. And it's for me, that's an amazing thing. I mean, I guess that shows you how much they love the game. They're competitive, right? And you hope that they can remain that way.
Yeah, and it's such a unique position, right? Because it's the only position in sport where you don't really know what's going on, right? Your back's to the ball. You're just out there trying to do your job and hoping for the best, right? Receiver, yep. You can see what's happening. Point guard, right? Any of that stuff. It's such a different spot. And what's fun is, and ultimately, I think when you have those really good O-line groups, they create their own language. They got their own inside jokes. They're basically doing their own thing, inside of the bigger picture. And so it's fun to watch those guys come together as the season goes and build those connections and start, certainly they're all best friends, which helps on game day when they trust the guy next to them.
Yeah, I think it's something that's pretty unique. I know it's that way in other sports as well, right? I know that guys bond, but there's these, in the real world, right? And I don't mean that slam on, but when you're working, it's usually based off departments, right? And your departments, right? Your groups, you always want to have those guys, I would imagine, be able to, the offensive line bonding, the defensive line, kind of those guys, because they spend a ton of time together. And I would think their communication off the field, right, is going to help them translate on the field, right? and they're comfortable with each other. Plus, I think sometimes that when you have that, it's important because they have to be honest with each other, right? Like, hey, man, you're messed up, right? Like, they probably wouldn't say it that way. They have more colorful words. Believe it or not, I'm sure they probably learned them from somebody. They didn't learn from me or you, but but they're guys who just can have that conversation, and you hope they can have those conversations where you can say, "Hey, you know what? It was a heated game. This is what I jumped your butt on this, but you know what? We're cool. Everything's good, right? Because you can't really carry that off the field. And I think we're at this level. I think whether it be you, whether it be the other players, that you have to take everything really with a grain of salt, right? You have to. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's everything happens in war, right? And if you're in a war, things are said and things are done that maybe just aren't that comfortable for you. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, right?
Yeah, and that's our challenge to everybody. Like, if we want to get better as a team, we got to be able to hold each other accountable. If someone's not doing something right, we tell them if a freshman sees a senior doing something he's not supposed to be, we got to be willing to call that out. And it's not always easy, right, guys? It's hard to do in a lot of situations, and it's hard when it's your friends to say, hey, that's not how we do this, whether it's on the field or it's in the dorm or the classroom. Like, it's hard to hold people accountable, but ultimately the best teams are able to do that. And that just, we talk about, hey, you're not going to ruin your friendship. Once they understand where you're coming from, that you're trying to help them do better, it's going to grow your friendship. Like, you're going to be closer as people because of that ability to hold each other accountable.
Yeah. I think as they grow, and you put this, as they grow beyond their freshman year, which is really just about trying to figure out, get their feet steadied, right? Get away from, I know, talk to some of the freshmen, they get a little homesick. I get that. And so as they go along, not only do they feel more comfortable at school and at Ripon and in the program, but they feel more comfortable with each other to have honest conversations. Because those, as you probably know, and I think I've seen this on some of your stuff, not that I creep on your stuff, but you had your wedding, right? And it looked like a lot of guys that you knew, probably either from college or wherever, were in your wedding, right? And those are the things I think are pretty unique. Talk a little bit about that from your perspective, as you went as a player growing, how those relationships that maybe you established in college, do they continue to grow and mature, and there's value in that as you go along?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of corny and whatever, but like my favorite thing is going to, whether it's guys I played with or players that I've coached, right, going to their weddings and seeing 35 college football players. It's amazing to see, like one of the guys I played with here, he got married. He had 8 people in his wedding party. 7 of them were guys we played with. And the 8th was his brother, right? So I'm not sure he had a choice in the matter on that one. But there's the difference here, right, is like you're together so much, like just in the dorm, on the field, weight room, film, like class, all that stuff is so together just by the nature of it that you build those relationships and you go through a lot as a college football player, right? The ups and downs, whether it's wins and losses or getting up at 5:30 in the morning for 6 a.m. lift, and just all the stuff that that it takes to be a great college football player and a great program. Like, it's hard. And so similar, like you go through those hard experiences in anything in life, it usually creates a bond that you have something to kind of rally around. And you have those people that you can trust and lean on when stuff's not good, because that's what happened for 4 years in college. And so, it's a little bit unique in that. I think every sport has it a little bit, but football is kind of to a different degree, I think, because the physicality of it, the reality is, like, the basketball team can go in the gym and play pickup year round, and it's fun to play basketball and do that stuff. It's not fun like 90% of the time. It's really hard to get up and lift and practice and do all this stuff for ultimately 10 games a year. And so I think that grind creates that bond that you talked about.
Yeah, I think that when you're playing, it's like anything. I think if you go through a struggle a lot, right, that you finally figure out like, hey, you know what? We've shared some really significant times, right? And you look back on those, not so much of all the struggle you had, but really just about um, that was the building of the relationship, right? And so when you're in there, even though it's a football game, those are the guys you probably think about. If I'm in a bind, I can pick up the phone and call these guys, and they'll be there, right? I'm not
Yeah,
saying it doesn't
yeah,
happen in life, right? It does happen in life, man,
right.
but it you're so compacted into a 4-year period, into these games, really just fighting. And I'm sure some of the guys that you know that you're good friends with, you probably there's times you guys argued and fuss and fight, and then now it's like you're grown, you're older, you've got children, you're married, probably most of you, and you're in that life, and you can look back on those things and really admire that relationship, because that type of conflict at times and those type of arguments or discussions, honest discussions, are really what build the character of each other.
Yeah, yeah, and I think another big part of that is like certainly there's a lot of development from up to age 18 before you go to college, but like that 18 to 22 when you're off on your own, kind of ultimately kind of discovering who you are. I think doing that together, right, goes a long way, and like trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do and what you want that life to look like. Like
Yep.
those guys are a part of it. And they have a big influence on it, right? So naturally, I think you gravitate towards those people that were in that time with you.
So tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Coach. I'm going to talk to about each one of these coaches. Tell me a little bit about Coach Schmidt, right? Uh, Tell me about I don't know his style, kind of because I have a view of him. Obviously, I'm not around him very much, but he reminds me of a guy I know. In fact, one of my mentors. Tell me about Coach Schmidt and talk a little bit about what he covers for the program, um, and what value he brings to the program, especially guys probably been around for a while.
Yeah. Yes, Coach Schmidt's in his 18th, I think, year here. 19th, maybe. I always get them mixed up. But he was here when I was playing. And for I think the perfect testament to like who Coach Schmidt is as a person and a coach, right? And how much he cares about this program and our kids is when I was playing. I don't remember which year it was, but he had full hip replacement 6 weeks before practice started
Really?
in August, and he didn't miss a day. He was hobbling around. We kind of tease him about it now, but I mean, he was there for everything, and you could tell he was in pain. He was struggling, but he cares so much about this program that he wanted to be. He wasn't going to miss it, right? And it's such a great example of who he is as a man. He was a longtime high school coach. Both football. I mean, he's probably coached every sport that that a high school has to offer at some point. But he works with our receivers and tight ends, and then is our special teams coordinator. So he also works with some snappers, kickers, punters. Right? He's got his hands in just about everything on offense and special teams anyway. And I think what's great about him is he knows football. He's been around a long time. He can coach and do all that stuff. But he to him, this is never about football. I think this is why him and I get along really well. Is it's not about wins and losses. He wants to make sure that the people he comes in contact with feel better about their day or their life when they walk away from him. I mean, he's great about. He never gets caught up in the football side of things in the sense of like, hey, if you're having a bad day, he's going to talk to you about the bad day. He's never going to be like, hey, we got practice. Like, not that I think a lot of guys on our staff do that, but I mean, it's always about relationships with him. I'm always amazed at we'll have a recruit come from wherever, it doesn't matter. Pick a random town in Wisconsin, and he knows somebody from that area or that town or that high school coach or whatever, and we tease him about it, but it's like, that's who he is. He's all about relationships, and he has these great connections all really all over the country. But that doesn't happen if you're not a great person, right? You can say somebody, but to like have evidence with experiences and that relationship is a perfect example of, hey, like he cares about everybody, and there's nobody that he comes in contact with that he's not trying to make their day a little better. And and that's how he approaches every day, and it's awesome being around him. I joke I call him the mad scientist on special teams because he comes up with some crazy stuff sometimes. But I think here more than anywhere I've been, our kids really buy into our special team stuff, and I think that comes from him because they know he cares about them, he cares about them outside of football, and they buy into that, and our special teams are usually pretty good and I think that's a big part of it, right?
Yeah, and I've had a couple of interactions with Coach Schmidt. Obviously, through the recruiting process, we've talked. Great guy, but I will tell you, the day we were moving as freshmen, being freshman parents, we had no idea what we were doing. Right, we had no clue. And they said, go down here, and it's weird. And people that are in Ripon understand this, right? People outside of Ripon would be like, what are you talking about? I had to drive through the graveyard, right?
Oh yeah, because we had the road was closed last year.
The roads were closed. So I had to come through first, and they're like, I think Grayson was like, Dad, you have to go through. I'm like, what do you mean? It's a cemetery. I can't go through. And like, no. And then I started seeing other people. I'm like, okay. So I went, and I'm like, look, there's Coach Schmidt, and Coach Schmidt was there by Scott and whatever that was, and moving people around and stuff. And so I didn't know what I was doing. So I came around and I had my window down, and all of a sudden I heard him say, he said, Dexter, back that thing up. And I was going the wrong way. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I told Grayson, I said, I have officially been yelled by Coach Schmidt. And then, of course, then later I see him, and he's full of shits and giggles, right? He's just joking around and stuff. But it was one of those things that, because I always had just from an arm's length, always really liked the guy. I thought he was really nice. Always had this, hey, bud, what's going on? Stuff like that. And he reminds me, I think I told you, he reminds me of my mentor, a guy who was really close to me, a guy by the name of Tom Nightwine. And he had that same type of personality. And he was the type of guy who could get on you and yell at you, but then could be out the next minute. He would get you like, why the hell did you do that? Right. And then 2 minutes later, go, hey, let's go mess around for the rest of the day. He's my boss. I'm like, sure, why not, right? And he kind of just the way he carries himself reminds me of Tom, and I think I'm kind of fond of him. Some of the other guys I don't know well. I think I obviously know you and Coach Ernst and Coach Coles and Coach Schmidt. Some of your guys coming in, I think that year and the year after, I don't know that much. But I like the fact that he's been around a long time. He's kind of got this fatherly type of, you think about it, I'm sure you can yell and scream like with the best of them, but he's got the type of put your arm around him kind of approach. And I think, and he does that even for parents, right? And I think that was something unique when I came to Ripon was we went to a lot of places, right? We were lucky, but this was the only place where you would stop and talk to me, Coach. Everybody was approachable. Some of those places you just, and some of the schools they're just not that way. I'm not saying they're bad people, but I think that's the thing that welcomes us as a family. And I think that's important too, right? As a family, you have to feel comfortable with where your student athletes going. And that's been Ripon for us, right? And I think it's important to talk about those guys because, I know they do a lot of stuff too. And I'm sure they probably don't give a crap about the limelight. I'm sure Coach Schmidt don't, but at some point I'm going to put a mic in his face and a camera in his face, and he's going to have to say something.
I love that.
All of them will, right?
That. Yeah.
So heading, kind of getting back to the season, heading into this weekend, how do you see like the overall feel of that? I mean, I would assume it's not the big hoorah. I think the big hoorah, is going to be against Lake Forest. I have that right this time. I have it wrong last time.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of people there, but I would think this would be a good turnout too, especially being Hop Stadium. And I think there's going to be a lot of excitement there, right?
Yeah. I mean, just kind of walking through campus and even going a quick trip in town or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about it and excited about it. And ultimately, right, like shout out to our new AD, Chris Schumacher. Like he wants to make it the best atmosphere, in the league, in the state. Like he's committed to making game day great and for everybody, right? Whether it's football, it's basketball, it doesn't matter. But he wants that place rocking. And so, the first year you never totally know what to expect, especially the first game. But, not everything's done, right? There's some branding and minor things, but we've got what's there to be operational on game day. And, but I think the excitement just on campus is really high. I mean, just hearing from our guys about professors asking about the stadium and hearing people in the lobby talking about it, and, being on the field and watching people walk by, up and down the hill, just staring. One of our track guys was up in the office this morning talking about how cool it looks from the dorm, right? And the tailgate that they're planning, that for this weekend to be at the game and have a students tailgating and so, which is hard at Ingles, right? With an off-campus stadium, it's easy for people to say, nah, I don't want to go over there. It's a little bit harder when everybody gets to walk 10 feet and be at the stadium. So I think it's going to be exciting. Obviously it's going to be exciting, but I think we're going to have a great turnout. There's going to be a lot of juice, a lot of energy floating around on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and my latest from our Rippin' Parents group, and if anybody listens to this or watch it, make sure you join that as a parent. You got to be a parent and have a player. But I think the latest is we're going to be right to the side of the stadium in that little parking lot there, which is
right there on the north side.
I got to tell you, that's the cat's meow, man. Right? I know we originally talked about back a little bit behind this building or whatever, but I'm so glad that we're able to do that, because just the feel of the stadium, you're right there. It's you're going to see it. You're going to be able to look at it. You're going to be able to walk right to it. So we're excited about that. I think this week we're going to just do some subs and stuff like that for folks. It's not me. We have a couple parents that stepped up, as you know, and their names. You should talk about them briefly, about the great work that they do, because they're following in the footsteps of some great people as well, right? And that's an important thing. When we came up there, I had bought prior to this, I may still bring it up, I've got a grill, right? A Blackstone. And I said, I'm going to bring it up for tailgating. And then I found out after I bought it that they actually do it for them. You can bring it, but they actually offer stuff and make stuff and whatever. So guess what? I got a Blackstone grill. So, but it's a great thing because they offer things. I mean, I know there's some parents that came in and bring their own stuff, right? But talk a little bit about those parents and what they do. And again, if parents haven't joined, I assume all of them have, please join that. They do a great job. It's a wealth of information, and they get us kind of directed. Like by Wednesday, let us know how many people you're going to have. By this date, let us know this. And this is where we're going to be. This is the food we can offer. But talk a little bit about the sets of parents that are helping out, if you can.
Yeah. Kathy Ramage and Michelle Vaughn kind of took over for Amy Fisher and lead the charge of that parents group. And, the reality is, like, for us as in our program, like, especially as coaches, like having that, knowing that support system is there to, it's even things just planning a tailgate that really don't have a huge impact on us that get us excited, because we know there's going to be more people there, and our goal as a program, and this because we talk about it in recruiting, is it's a family, and I don't care if it's a player, it's a coach, it's family of a player, right? You're a part of the program, and I think one of the cool things about having the tailgate right just to the north side there is that we missed at Ingles is it feels like a college football game, right? You've got people having fun right outside. You see all that stuff while you're on the field and all that hoopla, right? Yeah. For the best word I got. But, that makes our players feel great, right? It gets them excited to know that stuff's going on, and that's built around the program. And so Kathy and Michelle have done a great job taking that on. I know it's a lot of work to plan it and get all that stuff figured out, but it's a huge piece of our program. I mean, on the recruiting side of things, parents, it's one of the main questions we get, is what's the tailgate? You guys tailgate? Is there a parents group? What do they, all that stuff is a big part of our program, on whether it's game day or outside of it. We love to have it. It's just one less thing we got to worry about. Right. Yeah. But we're appreciative of the work that they put in, and I think it makes game day more fun for our parents, right? It's not just about coming to watch your kid play football, it's an experience, and that's what we want it to be, for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's for us, it was such a welcome thing. It was new. Obviously, it's new to all freshman parents and players, but you don't know. You don't know, am I on my own? Some of the big universities you get kind of lost in. I know it's a really nice atmosphere, but I think now where we're at with the stadium, having that tailgate right there, and I know it's not guaranteed it's always going to be at that location, but that really is going to add to that, like you said, that atmosphere, right? Of great things coming. I know each time I'm in town, we stop. I take pictures of the stadium, try to update people. Some people, we try to get updates, and you guys have done a good job. I've seen some of the drone shots and video of that. That's great. Seeing you guys, I tried to pull it up here, but I don't want to hold things up. Walking the field for the first time, kind of arm in arm as a team. And how's that thing settling in? I know it's still, probably when you get it, it probably takes a little bit for it to settle in. How's that thing going?
Good, feels good. The new turf's always a little bit soft for about a month, until you get some contact with it. But everything seems good. I mean, and ultimately we play on turf enough that it's not, it's the same turf we had at Ingles. So guys are at least familiar with the feel, and it's not a dramatic difference, but having some stuff on your own field that's got your colors and your logos on it is pretty fun.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I looked at the wall with the Red Hawk thing painted on there and stuff. I was pretty impressed. Like, hey, this is coming along. Not that I didn't expect anything less than, but when you get to see it, I snuck down, almost fell down, getting down there to peek between the fence and get a good camera view and stuff. So yeah, we're super excited, man. I want to jump into a couple of questions. We talked about a couple of questions have nothing to do with football. Tell me, Coach, and again, this is, I'm keeping tally over here. I've got this sheet here on the wall, kind of like you have behind you. So who was the first football game against to start their oldest rivalry? That gives it away, right? Your oldest rivalry, when did that start? When was that first game played? What year? And do you know who it is? Don't be cheating now. I seen you looking at the wall.
It's trying to see how. I don't think the trophy goes back that far.
If they did, it'd probably be a rock.
Yeah, right. So it's Lawrence, but 1914. No, that's not right. No. Well, hold on. I know hold on. Let me back up. Do the math. It's like 1900. Maybe like 1896 if there were a couple years that didn't happen, because I know 2000 was the 100th game. So, but I think there was a couple years, like maybe like during World War I or II, where they didn't play.
Here's what I've got. This is off of your guys' website, not yours personally, but the college. It says in 1882, football game between Ripon and Lawrence started the oldest college football rivalry in the Middle West.
So there was a bunch of years there they didn't play.
I'm pretty old, man. And it was on, I remember it was a cold day. It was November 17th. No, it does say November 17th. And I thought that was.
Coach Coles might have been there, but.
I'll leave you that. I'll ask him when I get my interview, say, hey, how was the weather that day in 1882?
Yeah, that's a good question.
He'll probably say, come over here, young man. Let me see if I can put a knot on your head. And I was looking at some other questions. And I don't see too much out there. Do you know the first time you guys used Ingle Field for your games?
Oh, I just read this morning. The Ripon paper did an article about it, and I didn't read it close enough to like pay attention. It was like 1941 or 42.
You're close. 1939. So. And it says, I didn't know this. It says Ripon College sold Ingles Field to the city of Ripon. The field's still used for football games. So I didn't know the college owned it and then sold it to Ripon, huh?
Yeah. That was actually, I didn't know that one.
Now the first, bless you, young man.
Thank you.
The first reported football game, though, was earlier than 1882. The first reported football contest was an intramural game between members of the Economy Club and another organization known as the Spartans. That was in 1881. I mean, what do you, I mean, I'm a wealth of knowledge that, people say, wow, you've got a great brain. No, I have a great computer and I can look at it while I'm talking to you. I won't remember this.
Yeah.
If you ask me Saturday, hey, Jeff, tell me a little bit about that 1881 Amarillo. I don't even know what you're talking about because I won't remember it.
That's the benefit of technology, man.
Well, we're looking forward to it, man. We appreciate it. If you, in the meantime, find a couple, if you want to send me a couple of names of guys to talk to and you're comfortable with that, man, I want to grab them maybe after the game, after a victory, right? And beating down Cornell. No, I like Cornell. They were very nice people. Unlike some people, I won't say who they are. You know what I'm talking about. But they were very nice people, but that doesn't mean we don't want to kick their ass. I'm just saying that. I probably shouldn't say ass, but I'm going to start saying that and maybe mark it as it's for adults. But hopefully nobody gets offended. But I'm looking forward to seeing you, man, and seeing you out there and on the field at the new stadium, kicking ass and taking names, man.
Yeah, I just without the track separating everybody, we're pretty close to the bleachers, so hopefully nobody gets offended by anything. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be all right.
Well, now, so right now everybody's on one side, right? And I think from what I understand is maybe next year, the coming years, I don't know when that's going to be, they're going to put the other bleachers on the other side. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay. And so we shouldn't like start a bunch of crap with our opponents, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, hopefully we're fight free for the first game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think we'll be fine. I think we've done pretty good, and we welcome Cornell and their fans there with open arms.
We're not a certain school down south whose fans want to converse with other fans in a less than appropriate manner.
Flip me off when I'm taking pictures, right?
I'm not even talking about that one.
Oh, you're not talking about. Ooh. Well, we have to talk.
About it's a little bit closer.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking. I think I know who you're talking about. We'll talk about that later. We're not saying it on here because we don't want to be disrespectful, but we try to treat people nice. We welcome with open arms, but we will kick them right in the butt to get them out and hopefully with a victory, right?
There we go.
Hey, listen, I appreciate your time today, man. Thanks for coming in and talking. I know you've got stuff to do. I'll talk to you a few minutes afterwards.
Okay.
But I do appreciate it. I think the parents appreciate it. I hope so. If not, we're just sitting here, two guys talking, and you could be doing other things than I could too. But I enjoy it.
There's gotta be at least one person who enjoys it.
Well, if nothing else, there's two people we know like talking with each other. That's me and you. We may not do it other than the podcast, but we're doing pretty good. So, Coach, thanks for your time today, man. Good luck, and let's bring home a victory for the Red Hawks.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing everybody in the new digs on Saturday.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for your time, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks for listening to the County Pulse Podcast. Make sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the County Pulse.